This is Kevin. He's going to talk about testing the way it should be.
I attribute that to my sloppy handwriting. My name is Ken. That's okay. It's all good. So today I wanted to do a real quick plug for a new end-to-end testing solution called Cypress. You can find them at cypress.io. The first thing you should notice, first off, has anyone ever heard of it before? Awesome. This is actually really good. So the first thing you can know is that they're still in early access. The application process is really easy, and it's pretty easy to get in. And I would encourage some involvement and support here, as during early access phases, products can tend to evolve very well, and user feedback is critical. So it's more of just a framework. It's not just like Selenium where you download Selenium and run and a browser spins up. It's more of an experience, and that's one thing I kind of wanted to share with you. So right now you can install Cypress through npm, and the core of the experience, or rather maybe the launcher of the experience, is actually an Electron app, which is kind of cool. So I can come up here, and I'm not going to show the installation process because it's really easy. It's only 2 lines. So on macOS, it's here. On Linux, on Ubuntu or any other distro, it's just through the command line. It will also spin up a GUI with this interface. So you can, for example, I have a little test suite set up here. I'm going to click on that. It's going to start the server, and then I'm going to click Run the Browser. And the very first thing that it does is it shows you what tests you have available. These are just some dummy specs I have here. This example one specifically is one that is installed by default that you can remove later. But the first thing I wanted to show you is the fact that it's just a test suite that comes with some pretty useful Chrome. First off is this testing menu. You have access to the docs here, which is pretty cool. And then I'll show this in a little bit as well. But what's kind of nice is it encapsulates your browser in an iframe and then runs through the specs so that you can see them run side by side. And while this is running, I'm going to show that they also have this awesome little Gitter chat window here, where the developers in the community are actually pretty involved here. And in fact, I've been chatting with them several times this morning, just based on some things I was wanting to do or try. So as this is done running, we're getting there. I should have started this beforehand. Maybe I'll see if I can do this. So each spec can be expanded to show the actual steps of it, and you can click on it and see the browser at that state. Right now the entire suite is still running, so I can't actually click on it right now, or else it wouldn't be very evident. But when it's done, you can actually go and click on those and see a snapshot of the DOM in the browser when during that part of the test, which is really, really helpful. So yeah, go ahead and give Cypress a try. Again, it's just a really quick plug. It's based off of Mocha and Try, the actual specs themselves. Really easy to write, but it abstracts the experience. So this actually is in like a separate testing repository, so I can test multiple applications at once. It's just very helpful. Very nice spin on some of the old testing methodologies. That's all I got.
Cool, thank you. All right, who's next?
Am I on? Sweet. Okay, I'm the guy who talked about building a multi-user online whack-a-mole game yesterday, and real-time web and PubNub and all that stuff, and I'm not going to talk about any of that today. Today I'm just going to talk about a really cool library that I've been helping beta test. There's this group called CDG Labs, which is Alan Kay's latest research group. Before that, they were VPRI. Now, actually, as of maybe a week ago, they have a new name because it's basically whoever's doing their grants right now. I think they're part of Y Combinator now. So at github.com/cdglabs is this project called Ohm. And Ohm is an amazing way of doing the thing that we've all wanted to do for so long, parsers. Don't you love parsers? Every time in computer science class I was told that I had to build a parser, I shuddered because it meant using this really icky BNF tool and lex and yak and all these nasty components. And it seemed like anytime you wanted to add like a tiny extension, you had to touch all these different pieces. So parsers are considered to be a solved problem, but the guys at CDG Labs felt like it wasn't. And in fact, they built an entire operating system built on the power of parsers, where you can make these very custom mini languages for specific use cases. Like they implemented the TCP/IP stack using a ASCII text diagram of actual packets, and that was the description of what the packet looks like. They built an entire graphics rasterizing system using 18 lines of code that's basically runnable math. And they did it all using the precursor to Ohm, which was called OMETA. And Ohm is a new version designed to be even easier to use. Now, it is very beta. Not all the features of the previous version are supported yet, but it's a very friendly group of people. And I'm going to be doing a new blog series about this at pubnub.com. And if you have any questions, that's my Twitter handle and my email address. So let's take a look. So suppose you wanted to just parse some numbers. So this is a very simple parser I created, where we say a number can be one of a bunch of different types: octal, hex, float, or int. And the way this works is this is a rule. Number is one of these things, and these things are further rules. So number is an oct, or one of those. Let's look at oct. Oct down here is the string 0, 0, followed by an octal digit, and plus, much like in regular expressions, plus means one or more. And then we look up what octal digit is, and that is any number between 0 and 7. And these are ASCII, so that's the character 0, dot dot means range, and then the character 7. So it's a very clean syntax. It's just rules defined by other rules. Number could also be a hex, and hex is what you'd expect. It's that plus a hex digit. Hex digit's actually built in, so I don't have to define that rule, but if I wanted to, I could overwrite it. Suppose I want to invent some new kind of hex digit. So this is the grammar. It is essentially just a set of rules in the language called Ohm. Now the rest of your parser you write in your host language, which for us is going to be JavaScript. So this is my JavaScript. I pull in the Ohm library, pull in all the usual stuff. I'm going to suck in my syntax file and parse it into a grammar object. Then I'm going to add semantics. A grammar is just that. It's a definition of what is a valid string or set of strings in a language. Semantics is what you actually want to do with those. And because the grammar and the semantics are separate, you can have multiple sets of semantics. So I could have one set of semantics that just parsed it into JavaScript. I could have another set of semantics that converted it into Java or Lisp or some other language. Or an advanced version of this could be a calculator, where it could turn it into a parse tree, or it could actually run the calculations and become a real calculator. And the semantics are always written in your host language, but the grammars are in the common Ohm language so that they can be brought from one version, from different platforms. So every rule in here has a matching function. And a semantics is just a list of functions. If you don't define a function for a particular rule, it will just do the default, which is usually recurse on its children. So in this case, number, let's say we go down to int. Int is one or more digits. So my int function just does some debugging and then returns parseInt. And this .interval.contents is the actual chunk of string that the stuff was running on. Am I time up? Okay. Thank you. Anyway, go check it out. Thanks. Song?
You were on. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Bring this over here. I'm going to do separate.
Here we go. So I was originally going to do this as a talk, and then I missed the deadline. So this is how I tweeted my way into 5.8 million downloads a month on NPM. So I'm Repour. I'm at Repour on the internet, and my blog is repourad.com. So who uses Bash? Raise your hands. Yeah. Okay. So of those who raise your hand, I've got a challenge for you. Without using the internet, write a function which takes a file name and returns the length of that file, or -1 if it doesn't exist. Who can do that on their first try? Yeah, I thought so. So for the record, this is the solution. You can see that we use this weird bash syntax where arguments aren't defined. They're injected into magic variables with no name. Then we use this weird magic flag to do an if statement to check for equality, or to check for existence, excuse me. Then we have to explicitly capture the output of a command, and then we find the length of something using an operator, and then we store that length as a string for some reason. So that's kind of strange. So who can do this in Node? Yeah. So this is much easier. You can see that everything has a clear name, and it's simpler. There's a lot less code here. And the other problem with Bash is that it doesn't really work on Windows. So there are 3 big problems with Bash. The syntax is awkward. We're unable to use packages, libraries, or SDKs. You can't make a Bash script which posts to Twitter or uses Slack. And it's not really cross-platform compatible. And also, we don't fundamentally understand it. So the only logical conclusion is to JavaScript all the things and to do it in JavaScript. So when you use JavaScript, all these problems kind of go away. There's no more awkward syntax. We're using the syntax every day. We're able to use packages, libraries, and SDKs. We have NPM. We have cross-platform compatibility. There's no reason to build a Node app where Node wouldn't run. And we understand it. It's what we're using anyway. So briefly, let's go back to the 5.8 million downloads a month. So in January, I noticed this project called Shell.js, which looks cool and seemed abandoned. And I asked if it was need a new maintainer. To my surprise, they said yes. And then I looked at the download stats and realized that they were a lot bigger than I had intended. So no pressure there. So has anyone here ever heard of Shell.js? No, okay, that's what I thought. So Shell.js is a lot easier. You require Shell.js, and then you use the same commands. You just use them in JavaScript. So you can see here, we require Shell.js, we clean any previous builds, and this is a build script, we babble the JS. If it exited non-zero, we print that out, and then we copy our images, and we echo that the build is complete. So I personally appreciate globals, but you can also do this with non-globals if you are using this in like an Express app. And it's still Node, so you can use all your normal libraries. And that's how you can write your shell scripts. I want to go back. That's how you can write your shell scripts in Node. So currently, our last release of Shell.js, which was 0.7, we added piping, globbing, and error codes. For 1.0, which will either be the next release after that, we're going to have plugins, so you can add your own commands. And then in the future, we're going to have async commands, and you'll be able to do SSH. So that's Shell.js. I hope you enjoyed it. You can find us on GitHub. I'm Repour, and slides are at repour.links/nodepdx16. I hope you enjoyed it.
Sir? Technology, I don't get this stuff. I know I'm on. I don't need it. Yeah, let me find a real window so we don't have all this. So I'm Jerry. If you've been to one of these things before, you probably recognize me or out and about or at someplace drinking whiskey or beer. So I decided I would not submit a talk this year, but I figured this was just too cool to not talk about. And I'm talking about PLV8. So how many of you use a database? That's a good chunk of you, good. How many of you use Postgres as that database? Awesome. So Postgres is extremely extendable. I mean, you can add new types, you can add new functions, you can even add new programming languages. So PLV8 is the JavaScript plugin for Postgres. And yeah, let this sink in for a second. Yeah, really. And in fact, here, this is stuff we should probably be doing. So let's go ahead and I'm going to just copy this line since I already know how to create the extension. Oops. I'm going to go over to this database here. We're going to go ahead and create the extension, provided I can spell right. Embiggened. So we've created the extension. Let's go ahead and paste what we did here. And look at that. We have a notice of the date, which is pretty much what we told it to do. We just said new date. That's actually really in JavaScript. There's no trickery there. Before I get to testing, let's go ahead and take a look at some code here. And I'm going to go ahead and create some stuff. So we have this test table, which is essentially a key value store. I mean, there's nothing really special about this. And we have this function here, which so you don't have to think about it too much. We're passing a JSON B field. We are passing a field, and we're returning JSON B. And inside of this is actual JavaScript. So we're splitting on dot for the field, and then we're looking for all the way through a JSON object for whatever is at the end of the chain, and then we're returning some inspection data about it. We're returning the type, the field, and the value itself. So inside of inside of Postgres here, let's go ahead and bring in dash create underscore table. All right, what directory am I in? You know what? I'm just going to execute those on cheat here. Of course. I'll do the old copy and paste method. That's a little bit easier. So we've already created the extension. We are creating the table. We're not creating the table. This is why we don't live code. Creating table. No. We are creating the function, and just to show it works, we get type or key foo type string value bar. And you know, that's all cool, I guess, but how do we test? Well, I like tests, and I think everybody should like tests. So I created this project called Equinox. And Equinox is just this really cool thing that allows you to use Node as a driver and write tests inside of your browser or inside of Postgres. And my time is up, so I'm not going to show you that, but I will show you just real quick further reading all about PLv8, all about the GitHub and Equinox, where you can actually do your testing. Thank you.
Okay. Cool. Got so much hair. There we go. Hey, cool. It's the world. Hold on. Let me mirror this. What? Oh, oh, oh. Right there. All right. Can you see what I see? Okay, sweet. Hey, my name is Max Ogden. I organize an event here in town called Donut.js, which is next Tuesday. I think there's like a couple tickets left. Next month there's gonna be Donut Picnic. You can use the picnic, or you can make a burger out of a donut. That's kind of the idea. So I wanted to talk about remote communication because I was showing somebody the only way that I'm able to stay sane working on a remote team, and also doing open source. And so a lot of times, like, people have a Slack that they have their team in, but then when they get hired onto a team that uses Slack for everything, suddenly they're like not active in any public channels anymore. But I found out through IRC Cloud, I'm getting notifications. I thought I turned that off. So through IRC Cloud, which is a subscription service that you pay $5 a month for them to keep you logged into IRC and then make it usable on a phone and a browser. So I got a notification from Slack through IRC. So you can actually, I'm on Freenode, but I'm also on my project Slack and also 6 other Slacks, I think, all in one client. So I feel like just people haven't realized that you can use IRC Cloud to log into Slacks, and the Slack integration is actually really awesome. So it still supports private messages, as you can see here, but you can also have, you get notifications into a single place. So I'm a big fan of IRC Cloud, and you can use it for free if you just only use it when you open the browser, but if you pay them $5 a month, then they send you notifications when you don't have the thing open, and they have a really great phone app. So that was one thing I wanted to share with people, because you can still be on Freenode and not have to know how IRC works if you use IRC Cloud, and you can still be in open source channels and not have to have like 6 different apps for having your private team stuff and your public team stuff. So even though you work on a private chat, you should still try to participate in public networks as well. So another thing we did, though, is because IRC still presents issues for certain people, we wanted to make it accessible. So we have this channel called Code for Science, for example, which is just a place to chat about open science initiatives. And we have it on Freenode. And then there's this Gitter robot, Code for Science, here that we run, that is an instance of this Gitter bot. So Gitter is really cool because you can just log in with your GitHub account, and it's a bit more user-friendly. And so what we do is there's 95 people in the Gitter, and there's about 20 people in the IRC. So they can mirror each other's messages. So if I'm in Code for Science, well, Substack said hi, Max, and then Gitter robot said Substack said hi, Max. So that way, you can have a Gitter room for people that just want to have an easier way to log in, and you can still have an IRC room for people that like IRC. So a lot of people are using the Gitter IRC bot to bridge channels, and so I'm a fan of that. The next thing I wanted to show is a thing called Screencat, because it's nice to be able to log into someone else's computer that you're working with and see what they see and type and be able to talk to them. And I was using an app called Screen Hero for this, but they got bought by Slack and haven't integrated it into the product in like a year since they got bought, so I've been waiting for them to allow signups again, and they haven't done anything with it. So I just wrote my own using Electron because I was like, I want to have custom features. So the way Screencat works is I'm going to do a demo. It's a little bit weird demoing it on one machine because, as you'll see, it gets kind of recursive really quickly. But it's a menu bar app, and you share your screen from one tab. You choose which part of your screen. I'll just do the entire thing. You get a cat name using the cat names module. a random cat name that you can copy into another instance. So imagine I'm on another machine, and then I get sent this cat code, and I connect. Then it'll log into the other person's desktop. But like I said, it doesn't really work on one machine because it's designed for multiple machines. And if I turn on audio, it'll get really weird also because, yeah. So it's audio works. So it's using, the way this is working is it's a WebRTC screen. Actually, in Electron, they added a desktop capture API. So you can take the desktop as a video stream, pipe it over a WebRTC connection. So there's no server, there's just a lobby. And once you're connected, you can see that this cat up here is the red one that's sharing the screen. That's because it's recording, and then this cat is the viewer one. So it's a direct connection to the other person, and what I like about this is there's no server, it's a direct connection between the two people, and WebRTC end-to-end encrypts your communication by default, so it's secure. And another thing I implemented was if I click, it clicks on the other side. So again, it's a little weird to demo on one machine, but you can see that like if I click inside the screen on the background, it issues a click, and then the mouse kind of moves for a second. So, and you can actually type also. So if you're interested in Screencat, it's open source, and I'm really looking for contributors to help make it more awesome, and we can have a cool way to share screens with each other so we can work remotely.
So my name is Isadora Burrell, and I'm talking about Minecraft. I play it almost every day, so how you play Minecraft is, so W is how you walk forward, and A is to turn left, and so W is how you walk, and A is left, S is backwards, and D is right. And the mouse, so the space bar is how you jump up, and the left mouse button is how you break things. And the right one is how to open like tests and things. And if you press F5, it shows yourself. If you press it twice, it shows the front view. And if you press F3, it shows which way you're going, like north or west, or what level you're at. So if you're mining, you can see what level you're at, and it also shows what seed you're at and a lot of other things. And then the #1 thing you should do is get wood, and how you do it is you break wood with the left side mouse from a tree. The next thing you do is press E to open your inventory. There is a box with 4 squares in it, and you put the wood in one of the squares, and then you pick up the planks. The next thing you should do is put the planks in all 4 squares to make a crafting table, and then you get the crafting table. Then you should make a sword, and it's kind of easy, but you put a crafting table and you get sticks and 2 pieces of wood. And how you make sticks is 2 pieces of two planks. And then you should also make a bed because at night monsters come out. And then the mods that I use are Tekkit Legends, Shadowcraft, and Cloud9. Thank you.
Let's see. How's everyone doing out there? Enjoying the conference? I can tell you the first time I spoke at a conference, I think I lost my mouse. See, is this working? First time I spoke at a conference, I was probably 17. I was by far the youngest person there. And then we saw Artie just a minute ago. It's like, well, they're getting younger. And then, how about that, a little adorable little girl? I'll just, so what I'm going to do is, this is just a demo. I'm not going to talk a lot. We're going to do a quick demo of WebSockets and audio, web audio API. Is this thing even working? So yeah, I did the professional thing and tested this out 20 minutes ago, and it actually worked. And now it's not actually working. But let's do this. My name is Mike Helland, M-I-K-E-H-E-L-L-A-N-D. And if you go to mikehelland.com on your smartphone or anything, something like that, does anyone want to go there? This is going to be a dare to see if you can bust this app. We're going to try and break it. I'm going to see if I can find the audio input really quick. Do you mind if can we? All right, this might be ugly. All right, so what I'm going to do is just show you this. Turn the volume down. Every time you hit a dot,
Thanks, Mike. There's badges on the floor.
Someone's still playing, that's awesome.